Hello and welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. I'm Chuck Benoit with The Nature of Things, where we are realigning God, government, and natural law so that we might, restore our American Republic. So natural law, as I've discussed in previous monologues, is not Judaism. And as I've clearly shared just recently, it's not the message of the Christian faith. Natural law is simply the nature of things, you would say in text form. It's a reality check. The civilizing of humanity to whatever level has occurred as a result of understanding natural law. But in the late 1800s, a group of people decided that our laws should evolve with society. So they determined that the revealed law of God, natural law, was not able to keep up with evolution, the evolution of mankind. So the then president of Harvard University, Charles Eliot, decided to use the idea of evolution to alter the bond between natural law and our nation's judicial system. So he hired Christopher Langdell in 1870, who introduced the idea of case law. Case law being the writings of judges would take the place of Blackstone's commentaries as the principles of our legal system. Now that was 150 years ago. So the question here, after 150 years, have we evolved into a more civil society? Has the world become a more peaceful place now that we're in this post-natural law, this post-Christian era? See, if we are evolving into a better people, why are we more divided as a society than ever before? The question that has to be asked is, having moved into this post-Christian era, has our society become more stable? Has it become more peaceful, more civil? And the answer is no. Our society has become more hostile, more splintered, and more untrusting. Quite frankly, our American society has become more barbaric and clearly has left civility in its wake. We're living in an Attila the Hun type of barbarism, with the cutting up of unborn babies to pieces in their mother's womb or left to die on the abortion table, the cutting off of our children's genitals and drugging them into perversions of themselves, and human trafficking with the brutal raping of young girls and boys at epidemic proportions. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in an Attila the Hun type of barbarism, masked in postmodernism. Where barbarism exists, natural law has been violated, whether it's in China, the Middle East, or right here at home. The absence of natural law is the first step toward tyranny. We took that step 150 years ago with the introduction of case law into our legal system, violating natural law. We are reaping the consequences of that today. Thanks for listening, and I am very excited today to bring in our new friend and our guest today, Kat from Cat's Meow, Kat Stansell. Cat's Meow, how are you today, Kat?
I'm very well, thank you, and thanks for the invitation to share things.
Yeah, well, sure, no problem. I've been reading, I guess, your Substack for a little while, and I keep saying to myself, where in Florida does this girl live?
And the reason you could not find the answer to that is because I don't. I am a resident of Tennessee. I twice owned property in Florida, but decided not to go back there when it came time for kicking back. I have enjoyed my time here very much. It's a good state. Tennessee is kind of, as I like to tell Tennesseans, it's what America used to be. Very, very moral, very kind, especially with the family strength. There's a lot. Somebody told me, "Oh man, you've moved into the buckle of the Bible Belt," and I said, "Then strap me in because I like it." You know, it's a good place to be. But while I was in Virginia, before I moved to Tennessee, I was writing on a subject of, in general interest, the voting system membership group called ERIC, Electronic Registration Information Center. That's ERIC. Nowhere in that name do you see elections.
Yeah.
It was simply the electronic storage of massive amounts of information on U.S. citizens through their voting registrations. ERIC was a membership group that at its height was managing the voter rolls of 33 states, I believe, at its height. Then in early 23, it folded down, and 10 people pretended to say, oh, we're going to step away from ERIC. We didn't realize it was so dangerous. Well, I'd been writing about why it was dangerous for a long time. But in so doing, somebody in Florida who'd been reading some of my writing texted me and said, you need to meet Chris Dursky. And I thought, who dat? And I answered the person back and I said, well, thank you. Tell me why. Why do I need to meet this person? And he said, you're right on the same wavelength. And I think that you two could work well together. Well, that turned out to be a very true statement. I have been now working with Chris, writing about him, writing with him for almost 4 years.
Wow.
It was before the 22 election. I guess late 21 is when I first started speaking with him. I had him as a guest in my podcast when I was up north. Okay. So it was, I found a man that I just incredibly respected. Chris is a young man. He's been in the Air Force. He's a veteran of the Air Force. He has a wife and a family, 2 sons, and he is so adamant. He has a very personal strength in keeping America free, because both sides of his family, his relatives came from Poland. They lived behind the Iron Curtain, and they could tell you exactly why. It wasn't a good place to be. Yeah. And his mother-in-law is still stuck in Venezuela. They had her on a plane. They had a ticket. She was at the airport, the last plane out, and it was grounded. She never left. And so she is stuck in Venezuela. And that is also not a nice place to be. Oh, no. So Chris feels very strongly that he does not want that to happen to his sons. Yeah. His family needs his help wherever he can give it. And he's brilliant with computers. His business, his most current business, was he would help small businesses reorganize their systems in order to be attractive, to be purchased and joined in with larger firms. And so he has all the computer knowledge he needs, and he has now turned that to helping our voter rolls. Yes. And he had a brilliant system in Florida. He helped you clean out, I believe it was about 1.5 million at last count.
Yeah.
He had he developed a computer program that he gave to all 67 supervisors of election in each county and let them run the system. He did not invade their system and try to show them what to do. He gave it and he said, here's how you clean up your rolls if you'd like to do that. I believe all 67 did, and some of them more willingly than others, but they kind of realized it was something that they should do. And maybe he'll laugh and say, why did you say that? But they did do it, and that was when the voter rolls started to clean up. He was very smart in that he did not take it by party. He took it by address.
Yeah.
Invalid addresses. He used the postal system. And if an address was considered undeliverable, then it should not be on the voter rolls. Now, there's some percentage of that where somebody just moved and so on and so forth. But by and large, it was a large part of the bad addresses were a large part of it. And he tripped on that Red Belly Road. I don't know if you know anything about Chris's Red Belly Road.
We're very familiar with Chris, and we're very familiar with the Red Belly Road for sure.
Everybody should be familiar with Chris.
Do you mind if I take a minute, Kat, and introduce my good friend and co-partner in all this, Mike Levine? I'd like to bring Mike into it. Mike, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing just great, Chuck. It's great to see you and Kat. I'm
Mike.
Fascinated with what Kat has to say, so give her as much time as you want to.
Well, you never say that to a woman who likes to talk. You're a daring man.
I'm good
with
it.
We had June Lang on, who worked a good bit with our buddy there, Chris, and
yes.
And she was talking a little bit about some of these things. And I know, Kat, I think you have some really, really exciting things to talk about. I didn't want to just go into that hole and die there. We only have our half hour, if you will. But but I didn't know if Mike wanted to add something to that, because you were kind of in that foundation there, though, when we were here in Lake County addressing all of this, and I didn't know if you had anything to share with that, Mike.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that everyone will agree that if you can't have a fair election, then none of your rights will be supported. And I believe that we still have problems on our elections in Florida. And I know for sure that our legislators, or you have to give the legislature in Florida a little credit, because they have attempted to bring some legislation to the Florida help. And I think that's part of the reason that the 67 supervisors of elections cleaned up their voter rolls with Chris's assistance. But the executive branch has done nothing effectively. They've actually told election integrity advocates that they're not interested, right? I mean, you can go back, the Lake County Republican Executive Committee censured Senate President Kathleen Passidomo when our chairman, Anthony Sabatini, in collaboration with the Republican Party of Florida chairman, Evan Power, agreed that the Republican Party of Florida was going to publish legislative priorities. I guess this was in 2023, or maybe 2022. Yeah, 2022 probably. And as soon as the Republican Party of Florida, I'll wrap this up in a second, published their legislative priorities, the president of the Senate ran to the Tallahassee Democrat newspaper and said that there will be no anti-woke legislation coming to the floor in the Florida Senate, and there will be no election reform legislation coming to the floor in the Florida Senate, when many Republicans had anti-woke and election reform bills filed and moving through committee.
Yes.
So that's I'll leave it at that. I mean, what else do you want to know? The Florida legislature and the executive branch is not interested in election reform, Chuck.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And we've talked a lot about this particular topic, and there are a few other topics I'd love to jump on with Kat. Kat, as a Tennessean, as someone outside of Florida, I was just wondering, what opinion you might have of Florida, possibly our governor, Ron DeSantis. If you have any, what is your opinion out there in the outside world?
Well, the outside world is broken into two, as far as opinion of Ron DeSantis is concerned. He was a very favorite candidate running into the presidential primary. People were very excited about him for various reasons, not only anti-Trump people, but other people who thought he was younger, he could do better, et cetera, et cetera. Ron DeSantis, sadly enough, and I think the presidential primary run really drove that home to people, he's very awkward. He's very uncomfortable with unscripted public appearances. He can get up and talk on Fox News just fine. And so everybody thinks he's really great. But when he was on the road, he had obvious clutch with talking to people over an ice cream cone or whatever at the rallies. And I think that kind of sets up a little bit about who he is as a leader. If he can have a dais, or if he can have a platform, if he gets asked a certain question and he can stand up and pontificate, I just use that term, then he's good. And he makes it sound like he's doing everything everybody wants him to do. But then the reality happens in the legislation that follows that. He'll say he's doing one thing and the legislation turns out to be something different. I think that the post-COVID, or during the early parts of COVID, the citizens' request, and this is, Mike, what I was talking to about when you were discussing this, the citizens wanted medical freedom. They wanted to be able to make their own decisions for healthcare. And it doesn't seem like a very unusual, radical thing to ask for. And he said, absolutely, you'll get it. But then the legislation said, yeah, but you don't have to listen to anything that the WHO says about, the World Health Organization says about COVID. But in any future national and international things, the state can't protect you. And I think a lot of the people were very disappointed in that, because that was not what the legislation they'd requested asked for. And the same with election integrity. For one point in time, they were really pushing the harassment legislation, such that if anyone approached their county SOE or any election officials and questioned them, they could be jailed for harassment. And that was also from the David Becker era. But it is, protecting election workers, that came up in Wisconsin. No election worker was ever harmed or hurt, but that was just part of the selling of this false narrative. And Florida dangerously pushed that. It really, talk about a difference between the legislature and the people. They wanted to criticize people who checked up on elections. It was pretty clear. And I think that definitely does not fit into the free state of Florida. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that, and again, so, it's interesting because I'm just don't like bureaucracies myself. And then when you realize that the Secretary of State is a member of the National Association of Secretaries of State, and all the supervisors of elections are members of national organizations of directors of elections, you realize that this isn't a bottom-up situation. This is a top-down situation where the Secretary of States and SOEs from all over the country get together and come up with their agendas, and then they come and jam it down the constituents' throats in their home states.
Exactly.
And then, so for example, in Florida, I mean, why in Florida have we not heard through this whole thing one single supervisor of election have a voice, a dissenting opinion on anything? And to me,
they're not allowed to. They're not allowed to.
I've been around people long enough to know that it's really difficult to get any small number of people, much less 67 public leaders, that all have the same opinion on anything. Yet, we haven't heard one peep from any, not dissenting voice, any compromising voice at all. There is silence on behalf of these supervisors of elections, Kat.
Isn't Alan Hayes still the current chairman of the State Secretary of Elections group? I mean, SOE groups. Is he still?
I didn't realize he was, because he wasn't a year or two ago. He wasn't, but he may be. I don't. His office is about 2 miles from where I'm at right now. He may be, and it makes sense. He is. With Alan's experience in the legislature, they certainly have tapped him to be their voice in the Florida legislature. So he goes up and argues, and in committee meetings and things like that on behalf of the interests of the supervisors of elections and the status quo election people. Kat.
Mike, I watched several hours, and Chuck too. I don't remember what month this is. Some time ago, I watched several hours of testimony from citizens when this session was just starting. When would that have been? February?
Session in 25. Mm-hmm.
They were taking, Tallahassee was going back into session, and they were taking citizen statements on things, and they listened to the Alan Hayes cry about harassment of election officials, and he was very upset about various things that had been going down, he thought. But when it came time for the citizens to speak, they were given 3 to 4 minutes. I think 3 of them were given 3 to 4 minutes. And part of that was trying to help them get their mic turned on, because it had been somehow just casually turned off. So that counted in their minutes to speak. And it was very disappointing to hear the citizens take their wishes to Tallahassee, and then they would listen for 3 minutes and go, okay, next. No discussion.
Horrible.
No questions.
Yeah, exactly. So Alan Hayes, in the beginning, after the 2020 election, when many concerned citizens were talking to him about their election concerns, he put up an article in the Orlando Sentinel that literally, the headline was like, "Put up or shut up."
Oh yeah.
This is a public official talking to his constituents, and
he's
saying that.
Yes.
And of course, Kat, there is a firewall between constituents and ballots. Nobody's going to let you see the ballots.
Exactly.
Okay. So
Exactly.
I'll just add to this quickly that there's an organization that has spawned out of all of this, and I won't get too deep into it, but it's called Nations in Action. And a friend of mine is running this global organization called Nations in Action. And her platform for her good governance guarantee is audits, affidavits, and transparency. And those are the three pillars of the good governance guarantee. And the point I'd like to make today with you and Chuck is that transparency means that the ballots can be published to the internet. Why can you not publish the ballots to the internet so we can look at them?
Why can't you
I
ever
mean,
see the
this
actual voting ballot? Why is
Why
that?
can't you see, as I said before,
Yep.
every single supervisor, to my knowledge, in Florida has put a firewall between their constituents and the ballots when they could easily just upload them to the internet. We could all take a look.
It's
Let's
public.
find out if the mail-in ballots were folded or not,
Yes.
right? And I just one more point, Chuck, if you don't mind. I personally sat in the canvassing board meeting, and Alan Hayes' employee audited several precincts, and in some of the precincts, they found a very small number of inconsistencies between the two voting machines as they're trying to reconcile the tabulators with the scanners, right?
Yeah.
And in that meeting, when it was all over, the chairman of the canvassing board signed a report that said there were zero discrepancies, even though we saw the discrepancies. So I asked the chairman of the canvassing board, Tim Sullivan, you're signing a report that says there were no discrepancies, and I'm not here challenging the outcome of the election, but I am saying that you and I both know we just witnessed together with everybody on the canvassing board and everyone in the audience that there were in fact discrepancies, yet you're signing a report that says there are no discrepancies, and that's okay with them,
It's
Kat.
an
And forgive me for
indication.
getting a little animated, right? But
Yeah.
this stuff
Yep.
makes me upset. Okay? I don't like that. We should publish the
Kat?
truth, Chuck.
Yep. Kat, you wanted to
Well,
share something?
I was just going to say that well, first of all, it's true in every state. They don't want citizens to get near elections.
Right.
Paper ballots, the president came right out and said, I want paper ballots hand counted. 1 day voting. Let's do it.
Yeah.
In the precincts, hand counted in the precincts.
That's right. Don't move them from where they
and
originate.
Chris and others in Florida have demonstrated that hand counting in the precincts works.
It's actually more efficient and quicker.
Yep.
And quicker.
There you go.
Yep.
I tried to get that started up here. People were la 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 la. We don't have any problems. Oh yeah. The country has a problem. Wake up. You're part of it. Is my message.
Sure.
And I think that,
Exactly.
well, I mean, Chris has a sign on his office wall that talks about the Zuckerbucks that Alan Hayes was given. So, I mean, that doesn't.
Many of his podcasts, I have seen the sign on multiple occasions. It's true. And that's all true. I mean, I've talked with Alan Hayes in public meetings, and we've had conversations on the telephone, one-on-one. And Alan just believes that constituents ought to blindly trust him. He tells us that all the time. That's his mantra. I have served as your senator, and I've been in this community my whole life, and you guys should just trust me. And that's his response to constituents' concerns.
So we've got maybe 5 or 6 minutes left here, and there was another topic. Kat, you and I have, I think, have discussed a similar concept. I'm coming up from it in one direction, you from another. My point has been, whether I've totally articulated this with you, that the Democrat Party never really governed our nation or the party itself as a democracy. It's always been more of an autocracy, or how AOC and Bernie are talking about an oligarchy. Well, that's pretty much how the Democrats have run their party and, as best they could, this country, this nation. And I'm finding that the Republicans are trying to do the same thing.
Chuck, you're right.
There's no longer a we the people thing telling our government how they can govern us, but it's all of a sudden become from either party, this is how you're going to be governed, like and sit down and shut up.
Exactly. I was just going to say that we the people has become you the people, and Alan Hay said it right. Sit down and shut up. That's what the attitude is nowadays, and that is what's caused the hue and cry against the government. And people are very confused because we have Republicans, we have Democrats, and for 10 years I have said to everybody, you get it a lot more clearly. You'll understand more of what's happening if you understand that party labels are dead and gone. There is no such thing. For the last decade, they've just been used to confuse you. What we have going on now in our country, if we have a choice, it's between Constitution and communism. Take your choice. It's as simple as that. If you sort out the rhinos, the globalists, everything, and lump them into the totalitarian side of things, the other side is the Make America Great Again. We want the Constitution back. So you have constitutionalists and communists. Much easier to understand everything that's going on.
There you go.
I couldn't agree more, Kat.
Yeah,
I'm preaching the same message whenever I'm out and about all the time, and
Good for
Chuck
you.
and I do that together a lot.
That's you guys are great. I'm very pleased to see a county take the initiative to offer its citizens a chance to stop in and listen, stop in and share the link with somebody else for the next meeting. Chuck, let me give you a chance to advertise your own mission here. How many days a week are you on that people can know to drop by?
Yeah, we're on right now Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. We're kind of working through things, trying to get, like I said earlier to you, both on Facebook and YouTube at the same time, live in both areas. But if we're not live on YouTube, we will be uploading the video very, very shortly afterwards. Mike has already got a pretty good YouTube following there. You've got a lot of things on your YouTube channel, right, Mike?
We're coming along. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
X is the big deal. I mean, if you really want to talk to the monster itself, which is the only way to solve a problem, X really is the platform you need to be on. And because again, you'll get the parties that can actually fix this. And you can, of course, it's going to be very, my X platform is a little controversial at times, when you're talking to the people who you perceive to be the problem and you explain to them why they're the problem, they don't like it very much. But X is where the action is if you actually want to get it done, right? So I think, and Chuck and I have talked about this many times, and we don't need to get into the mechanics of how to run a podcast, but there are tools that will allow you to live stream to multiple platforms. So the question becomes, do you reach more voters or more constituents by channeling into one social media platform where you will be rewarded for that? Because when you start streaming into multiple platforms, the social media platforms don't pay attention to you because they want individual access to your content, so you can't get it anywhere else, and that's what they want. So that's just a little thing that Chuck and I are going back and forth on and trying to conquer the pros and cons of streaming on multiple platforms. Chuck?
Yep, for sure. And like I said, I've tried two. I think I'm doing everything right, but we'll see today because I tried again today. We'll see if we're on YouTube along with Facebook in just a few more minutes. Anyway, Kat, this has been just amazing. I'm just so happy to have met you. I've been reading your Substack stuff for a while, and as I said earlier, where is this girl? Where do I have to find her? I'm going to have to go to Tallahassee to find this girl. Well, I just had to go to Restoring Our American Republic and bring you on board. We're just so
thank
happy.
you.
Chuck, I have to compliment you because Kat is a great find. And you brought her in, and she's so articulate, so knowledgeable. It's just been, for me personally, it's been great to have her with us today, and I look forward to staying in touch with her.
And
Thank you, guys.
We have some work to do.
I'm understanding.
Yes, we do.
Sorry. I'm understanding that there's some things that could possibly be opening up to you soon. So as you elevate your persona and widen your fame, maybe you'd be willing to come back and visit us again.
Thank you. I'd love to share with you more and more because the more I learn, the more it needs to be shared. People need to understand what's going on. And it's us little people that need to be in the light.
For sure,
So
for
thank you.
sure.
You're part of the light, both of you. Thank you.
There you go. There you go. Well, as far as our live stream today, I just want to thank all you who have so faithfully joined in with us. Forward to seeing you all this Thursday. This is all with Restoring Our American Republic and Kat from Cat's Meow. God bless you all. God bless America. See you Thursday.
Thank you.